So I'm going to stop walking for a second so that we can talk about today's subject, which is getting more steps in your day. So I'm going to give you a bunch of examples of ways to fit this in. One of them is what I'm doing right now. I just had to get up earlier to get the job done. And fortunately, I live really close to this trail now. And the whole walk, including the walk to, around, and back, is 5 miles. So if I do that, I get my 10,000 steps in, plus everything else for the rest of the day is bonus. So it's probably going to be about 20,000 or so in the course of the day. But that's one example, is you just got to get up and do it. So here's another example. I like to listen to things on YouTube or listen to different podcasts or books on tape. And while you're doing that, walk. Even if you can't get outside to go for a walk, walk around your house. That can add up really quickly. We have to get away from this sedentary lifestyle and this sedentary culture where we do everything sitting down. So in order for you to start to shift the glacier, to shift your activity, it doesn't have to be that you go to a gym. It doesn't have to be that you do it in a particular way. What we do need to do is start moving. So when it comes to things that you would normally do sitting down, like watching a show, listening to a podcast, listening to a book on tape, maybe that's an option. If you like to read, I love that you're reading, but maybe you can listen to a book on tape as well, and make sure that you're moving while you do it. If it's too hot to go outside, walk around inside. Go to a place where you can go inside. Walk around in the pool. Go for a walk in the morning or later in the evening where it's not so hot. If it's really cold, wait until the middle of the day so that it's warmer. But find ways to fit in activity with what would otherwise be a sedentary activity. You guys, I just have to tell you, getting out at this time of day, it's like 6:30 in the morning, is so gorgeous. Well, I guess it depends on the time of year. So 6:30 in the morning in July in Georgia, it's like going to a free zoo. I've seen, 4 deer, a toad, a copperhead, which you may not like, a chipmunk, a bunch of squirrels, a blue jay, a cardinal. It's crazy. It's like I've gone to the zoo, but I didn't have to pay for it. Okay, I've never seen a deer pee before. Okay, so I'm coming up to the male, and again, he's like right next to the trail, and I'm trying to decide, do I go by him? Is it rutting season? Is he going to be aggressive? I'm so close to you that I really need you to decide. Thank you. It's crazy. He's beautiful. And I came real close to stepping on that little guy. Yikes. Is it just me, or do squirrels look so cute when they're eating? You're adorable. I heard this really funny thing on a show once, and they said squirrels are just rats with good PR, or squirrels are just rats in a cuter outfit. Maybe that's true, but I think squirrels are adorable. So here's another tip. Stop trying to find the laziest way to do everything. When you go to the grocery store, let's save your door from dings and park further away. I see people driving around a parking lot with hundreds of parking spaces, trying to find one as close as possible. They are literally trying to be as sedentary as physically possible. And the amount of time that they drove around the parking lot looking for this magical space, they could have walked into the dang store. So, again, it's a shift in mentality, a slight change in the way that you do things. Let's make efforts to be more active. Here's another thing, using the stairs. Again, sometimes it's so hard to find the stairs in a building. The elevator is right there, but you can't find the stairs. If you know where the stairs are, or you can find them reasonably, if it's less than 6 flights, definitely take the stairs. I mean, I get if you're going to a business meeting, you're going to get all sweaty. You might not want to climb 20 sets of stairs. But in general, why do we feel like we have to ride an elevator or sit on an escalator? An escalator is not actually meant to give you a ride. It's meant to get you there faster. You're allowed to walk on an escalator or these moving sidewalks at places like the airport. You're not there to give you a ride so you can be lazy. It's there to make you move faster. So practice walking. Is good for your balance, it's good for your fitness, and it gets you there faster. But this whole mentality of I'm going to do as little as possible is just adding to the slow and painful death of Americans based on their inactivity and their poor lifestyle choices. Here's another option to add tiny little bits of activity in your day, and all of this adds up little by little. Every hour, get out of your chair. So if you have a sedentary job and you have to sit for work, sit on a ball, requires a little more activity. Get out of your chair every hour and go for a 1-minute walk. Go pee, get a drink, stretch a little bit and walk for 60 seconds. even that, maybe 10 minutes in the course of the day will add up to something valuable over time. 10 minutes every single working day is 50 minutes in a working week. It's not a huge amount, but it is way better than 0 minutes. Another thing about getting walking as activity is it doesn't get any cheaper than that. All you need is a reasonably comfortable pair of shoes. So, a good pair of walking shoes is great, but in Europe, people wear more sensible shoes so that they can walk, say, to and from work or to and from the grocery store. They don't, generally wear stiletto heels. They wear shoes that are reasonably comfortable to walk in. Find yourself a reasonably comfortable pair of shoes that you can wear on a daily basis so that you can go for a short walk. Another tip is during your lunch break. Now, I personally don't take a lunch break. I work straight through on my days, so that doesn't work for me. But if you get a lunch break, let's be real. How long does it take you to actually eat lunch, and how much of the time do you just spend sitting on your phone, looking at things on YouTube, sitting on your bum some more? So maybe take that extra time that you were going to be looking at YouTube or read a book or whatever, and do it while you're walking. Or eat your lunch, actually sit down, enjoy it, chew slowly, etc., and then go for a walk. So another thing you can consider doing is maybe getting a Fitbit or some sort of activity tracker. I personally don't wear one of these. However, I have a lot of patients that do, or I recommend it to them because they really have absolutely no idea how active they are. And I've had patients come in and in a course of a day, they get as little as 600 steps. And they had really no idea. I would say on average, a lot of my patients get about 2,000 steps a day, which is, the current recommendation is about 10,000 steps per day or more. And it's such a low portion of activity, and there's so many things that contributes to. They have pain, they have obesity, they have insulin resistance and diabetes, hypertension, heart disease. The list just goes on and on and on. It contributes to depression because they don't get the release of the endorphins, they don't get outside. There's so many reasons why you should really consider doing more walking. But the Fitbit can help you start to realize, where are you really now? Like, how much activity do you actually get? And you can look at the trends over the course of a week. So are you more active or less active on the days that you go to work? Are you more active or less active on the weekends? And can you start to shift some of those activities into the more sedentary days? Fitness tracker doesn't have to be complicated. They make these little pedometers. They're like $5 that you can buy, all the way up to very fancy Garmin's and Fitbits, etc., that are, several $100s. Maybe ask for one for Christmas. They can help track a lot of things. And if you're a numbers person, that can be really helpful. Here's another option. If you are on conference calls or on any call, my husband's really good at this. He loves to pace around while he's on the phone, but consider doing it with some earbuds or a Bluetooth, and do it while you're walking. And eventually your coworkers are going to know, like, you're the guy or the girl that walks around while you're doing conference calls. But there's actually some evidence that it increases your concentration and productivity. So if you really think it's going to distract you, there's actually evidence to support the contrary of that. So consider just pacing around your house, like walk the outline of your house, just so you're not always sitting. If you're going to make everybody sick with the movement, turn the screen off, but keep your ears plugged in. Use walking as a social activity. Go out with your friends and have your conversations while walking. Become that person that invites people out for a walk. My husband and I have the best ideas, conversations, etc. when we're out just walking on a trail. And that accommodates almost everybody's fitness level. Some people walk faster than others, but if you're doing it just for general activity and you're not necessarily doing it for training, show some grace to the people that need to go a little slower, or maybe you can push yourself a little bit to try and keep up with your friend that's a bit faster walker. Not everybody has to become a runner, but you can turn what would have otherwise been a sedentary social activity into something active. Rather than sitting around having a glass of wine, go for a walk. I'm not saying that wine is bad or that you can't have that occasionally too, but start to shift the way that you think about your social interactions. Maybe you can start to, go on a bike ride where at the end of the bike ride you sit down and you hang out and you stretch together and you talk. There's a million ways to do it, but since I'm talking about walking today, walking is, for most people, a universally doable activity. So think about inviting your friends. Now, on the reverse of that concept, there's also something really beautiful and great about being alone. I think that we have, as a culture, sometimes have some difficulty with the idea of being alone. And so maybe you can use this as an opportunity to spend some time with yourself and your thoughts, reflect on things, do a little forest bathing, which I have another video on if you're interested in that. All right, people, let's talk for a second. This is a little off subject about leave no trace. So I'm going to pick up this person's trash because they're irresponsible. In order to preserve the beauty of our nature, if you pack it in, pack it out. Maybe I'll do another video on some leave no trace stuff, but this is not cool. Like, don't do this kind of stuff. A little side note in terms of some things that you can think about doing as maybe a reward. Instead of rewarding yourself with food or something like that, maybe if you get so many steps in, you get to get yourself a new workout outfit, or maybe a new pair of sneakers, or you get to get a little piece of gym equipment like a new yoga mat. But I am a little winded because I was walking uphill just now, set yourself some goals that are not necessarily weight related or pant size related or, food related. Start looking at some goals that you can accomplish, and then the reward for them is shifting that mentality toward a more active lifestyle. Have you guys ever done anything active where you regretted it afterwards? Never. I mean, unless of course you got hurt, then that's always kind of a bummer. But in general, the hardest part is the first step. I have this concept, I call it feet on the floor. So this is how I get out of bed in the morning. And I'm a morning person in general. It's not as hard for me. And some people, it really is a struggle. But the first thing I do is you just have to stand up. Stand up and put your feet on the floor. And the probability of me getting back in bed is so minimal. That makes all the difference for me. So when your alarm goes off, don't press snooze. Set your alarm for the time you actually need to get up so you're not wasting 30 minutes, and use that 30 minutes that you would otherwise snooze to go and do something active, like go for a walk. Let's also talk for a second about willpower and discipline. I really hate the idea that people say, I don't have the willpower. Don't think of it like willpower. Think of it more as like discipline. It's acts that you do repeatedly over time. If you rely just on your willpower, eventually it's going to fail you. But acts of discipline, repeated acts over time, are something that people can really start to stick with because it becomes part of your routine. For example, we brush our teeth every morning and night because we've made that an act of discipline. We do it as part of our routine. We eat meals throughout the day because that's part of our discipline, part of our routine. I can think of a million other things, some of them probably not appropriate for me to say on here, that we do as an act of discipline. So if there's things that you want to change in your life, start incorporating them as an act of discipline, and don't rely on just your willpower, because then you're just going to have feelings of guilt and, helplessness, and that's never healthy for anyone. You can think of activity as pleasure. You can think of walking as pleasure. It doesn't always have to be as hard as possible and torture. Sometimes it's just being an active person. Now, if you want to go out and train hard, go for it. That's great. I love it. But if you also just, oops, that's a little wobbly. If you guys want to just go out and be active, it can be a stroll. The distance that you cover requires the same amount of calories. The time that it takes to cover that and burn those calories might be different. So for example, if I go out and I run a mile in 8 minutes, but it takes me 16 minutes to walk it, it's the same amount of energy expenditure, it just took more time. That's okay. I might feel like I just want to go for a stroll one day, and another day I want to go out and I want to work really, really hard. Either way, my energy expenditure was about the same. With that idea as well as, I think that if you're doing something like I'm doing, and I'm just going for a walk on the trail, I'm doing it for activity, my mental health and everything, take some time to really look at your environment. Stop and smell the roses. Literally, if there's a time of year here in Georgia where the honeysuckles are blooming and it smells divine out here. Stop and smell them. If you notice a toad, take a minute and stop and watch it hop around. Listen to the birds. They tell you when they're coming. They warn everybody around you. It's really cool if you start to pay attention to that. If you see a beautiful deer, stop and take a look at it. It's okay. We are always in such a terrible rush. And if my job right now is I'm out for a walk, I'm going to focus and I'm going to go for a walk. But ultimately, don't forget about the pleasures in life as well. So take some time to smell the roses. Celebrate your small victories. People get so caught up in their big long-term goals that they forget about the small attainable goals in between that really mean a lot. That's that shift in lifestyle that I'm really hoping that people can get from this channel. So if your normal activity level for a day in terms of walking was 2,000 steps and you get to 3,000, that is a victory. And it's okay that it's not 10,000 yet, but slow, bite-sized pieces. Just try and shift it a little bit at a time so that the next goal can be 4,000 steps and start to make it a habit. That's it for today, folks. I hope you found some of this helpful, even if it just starts to shift things in the right direction. Thanks so much from Le Mans Wellness, and always remember that this is for education and entertainment purposes, and please never use this as a substitution for appropriate medical advice for your own unique needs.